Lynn, welcome back to the Jefferson Exchange.
Oh, it's great to be back.
So here we are. It is officially spring now, so our first broadcast of spring on gardening, but it still is not quite time for planting everything. Now, I have noticed some other Rogue Valley gardening sources making mention of the fact that people were seeing vegetable starts for summer vegetables out on sale, but not a great thing to be putting into the ground at this time, is it?
Well, it's great for the nurseries that are selling them, and we'll get to sell them twice to the people who take them out and put them in. You know, everybody got tricked. We used to get tricked by the false spring, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
Recently, last week, we were tricked by the false summer that arrived. Right. And everybody felt like, oh, yeah, this is tomato weather. Yeah, for a week, and then it's going back to, being spring again, and we're going to get freezing temperatures. So people should never put their tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, squash, all that stuff in the garden until the beginning of May at the earliest, right? Because we do get mid-season, even mid-May frosts sometimes. You got to really watch the Weather Channel and look at those low night temperatures. And the lower you are in the valley, the more you have to watch it because cold air sinks. And Central Point could freeze while Ashen would be perfectly fine putting their vegetables in a week earlier because the cold air is draining away.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. You have to think in terms of frost pockets and the way that frost does
that's
puddle.
Right. Where's the coldest air draining to? It's the low spots in the valley. And so anybody down here in the low country, better make sure they've got things ready to cover up. If they're putting things in early,
right.
You better have something out there to throw over your plants to protect them from frost. Yeah.
And it was within 2 days of the time I became aware of some places selling summer vegetable starts that we got a frost at my house anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it behooves the nurseries to push out as much product as possible, as often as possible, apparently, because I really doubt that, the big box stores or some of the other places like Bi-Mart are giving the information that, well, you shouldn't put these out, without a cover until mid-May.
Yeah. I actually was at Bi-Mart the other day and didn't see the stuff out there, so we can let Bi-Mart off the hook.
Oh, good. We can let them off the hook. That's good. Yeah. No, and they're actually real good about having the spring vegetables, which you can put out immediately. All those things like, collards and kale and cabbage and broccoli, radishes, Swiss chard, all those great spring shoulder season vegetables, you can direct seed or transplant right now. And that's a really nice way to extend your gardening season. And they're just not on people's radar.
I might have asked this last time. It feels like I did, but what is it that makes those things better suited to take the colder weather?
I am not sure. I would guess that most of those are from cold weather climates, like Central and Northern Europe. Certainly, the things like all the cabbage, all the cruciferous crops, cruciferous crops. I can't speak. Are derived from a wild kind of cabbage. So Brussels sprouts, all those things come from those colder countries, and so can withstand frosts and those kinds of things.
Conversely, think about the things that grow in warm climates like tomatoes, and think about Italy and stuff like that.
Tomatoes, well, and came from this continent, but in tropical climates, right? So they're perennials in the tropics of the Americas, the tomato vines and those kinds of things. So, you just kind of have to realize that there are certain things that will do okay in frost, and others that you need to hold off on.
Okay, and Mother's Day is that's a general. It's a good rule of thumb that you put out there.
It's a perfect time to take your mom out to breakfast and then come home and plant your garden. I mean, that's a perfect day to me. Yeah.
Lynn Kunstman's back with us on Garden for Life on the Jefferson Exchange. I'm Jeffrey Riley. Let's talk about, as long as we're here just a few weeks away from it, about the Jackson County Master Gardener Association Spring Fair.
Yeah. So it's always the first weekend in May, and Saturday the hours are a little longer. I think we go from 9 to 4, and then Sunday we go from 9 to 2. 2 o'clock. And so our current Master Gardener class has been working diligently, starting all the summer vegetables that you should buy and plant after Spring Garden Fair. So we have things like tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, tomatillos, and the summer flowers like marigolds and zinnias and cosmos, those things that would be tender if you put them out now. But if you buy them from us at the Spring Garden Fair, then you can take them home and, put them in your yard.
I want to point out, though, to the folks who want to go out there, and again, this is May 2nd and 3rd, Saturday and Sunday. It is only until 2 o'clock on Sunday. I speak from experience, having shown up at about 1:50 last year.
Yes. And then you have to sprint to grab
So you have to watch everybody disassemble their stations. Yeah.
Right, we're all taking everything apart.
Exactly what happens. Yeah. So that's the Master Gardener Spring Fair in Jackson County at the Expo, May 2nd and 3rd. Saturday it's 9 to 4, Sunday 9 to 2. Just to be clear on that point. So let's talk about the things we're doing in the garden this time of year, because April is a great month to do a lot of working stuff that you might have let go during the winter.
Absolutely.
Let's go right to weeding, because I looked over at my, it used to be just a mixed garden bed, but it's become, the strawberries took it over and I just let them. But it's completely covered with tall grasses. And so...
Well, you probably want to take those out, because those are annual grasses that are coming in, and there's really no way of dealing with them unless you want to clip them over and over and over again, because they'll keep regenerating from the roots, is by pulling them out by the roots and either putting them in your compost pile or your green bin, or using them for mulch somewhere else in the garden, laying them down and letting them rot. It's time to pull the weeds so that you have room to put in the lovely new vegetables or seeds that you're planting now, or that you're planning on planting come May. So
the grasses in particular, and you mentioned using them as mulch, but I mean, is it a good idea or not to pull it out where it is and then just throw it right back down and go, oh, yeah, you're mulch now?
Well, that's what I do, but I'm a lazy gardener. So.
You too.
I mean, I don't. If there's a strawberry plant there, I wouldn't throw it on top of the strawberry. I mean, you don't want to kill the strawberry off. Right. But I mean, I've been known to just pull up the weeds as I go and lay them in a strip, at the edge of the raised bed. Next to the vegetables that I'm going to be growing or that are already in place. So I usually leave my weeds just where I pull them. Some people are more fastidious than I am. Sometimes if they're weeds that are very problematic, I will put them in I have Bermuda grass, which is a problem. That goes in the green bin, because once I get it out, I don't want it rerouting if I lay it down. Yeah, you don't. I mean, there are some things we know we want to get rid of totally. But the other things I will take out and just toss in the compost pile with some leaves layered in so that they heat up and rot and become food for the garden later. So,
I remain fascinated since I started getting into this, by when you start pulling out grasses in particular to figure out, those little long corkscrew roots that go down, sometimes a foot or more.
Right. Yeah. So, it's the rule of thumb. I mean, because I grow a lot of perennial grasses in my yard, not in my vegetable garden, but elsewhere in my yard. The way to tell if the grass is a perennial native bunch grass that I want there is to give it a good yank. It won't come out. The annual grasses are much more shallow rooted, and they will come out. You can pull them out by hand pretty easily, and then I thump the soil off of them and toss them down to be mulch for the other grasses that I want to grow there. So
yeah, that's an important point, to thump the soil part off, though, because you could come up with a big old clod of dirt.
A big old clod, and that's good soil. You want to leave that, where it was. You don't want to throw that in the well, you can throw it in the compost pile. It won't hurt anything. But I just always bang the root clod off so that most of the soil stays in the garden bed, and then take the green material away. So, yeah.
This is Garden for Life on the Jefferson Exchange. Lynn Kunstman is one of the Jackson County Master Gardeners, and my guest, I'm Jeffrey Riley. Let's talk about, as you put stuff into the garden, though, the importance of soil thermometer. And I wonder if you're aware of how different the soil temperatures move in versus what the air temperature changes could be.
Right. And that is really critical, because the reason that, people who put their tomatoes and peppers in early don't see any growth is because the soil is cold. And when the tomatoes and peppers and eggplant want warm soil. Squash and cucumbers need warm soil. And so you want to make sure your soil is, up around 50 degrees before you start putting those things in and seeding. Many of those vegetables, if you're direct seeding, you need to be sure that the temperature of the soil is over 50 degrees. Otherwise, they're not going to germinate, and they'll just rot there, or the birds will find them. They have that. It's a very bad fate for putting things in at the wrong soil temperature. So it can't be emphasized enough how important that is, particularly for direct seeding. That's really important.
Okay, so as opposed to putting transplants in,
right. Transplants, they can sit there with their feet cold for a little while things warm up, and they'll probably just sit there. They won't do a lot. But if you put seeds in when the soil is too cold, they are not going to make it. Or if you try to plant some of the cooler season vegetables when the soil is too warm, they're going to be hating it whiners too. So you gotta really monitor and look at the seed packets. They will tell you what the soil temperature should be and when you should be planting. Is it 3 weeks before the last frost? Or is it a week after the last frost? And how deep should you put them? If you don't read the seed packet, you do what I did for years, where I tried to grow dill, and it tells you right on the seed packet they need light to germinate. And of course, I was always putting soil over the dill seeds and going, why won't the dill grow in my yard? It's like, well, dummy, you didn't read the seed packet.
You might need a magnifying glass. The print can be pretty small on those.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. You do. Yeah, you might need a special magnifier to read it, but it's really important information. And it's usually in some kind of a little bar. It tells you plant it a quarter of an inch, cover it with fine soil, or needs light to germinate. Lynn.
Yeah, all those instructions are on there. So we have about 2 minutes left. I want to talk about, we were just talking about soil depth. Is there an ideal depth for a gardening bed?
I don't think there's an ideal depth. I just have raised beds that are about 6 inches above grade. There's no barrier perimeter to them. I just level the soil up, pull the soil up into a bed, and that gets them high enough so it warms more quickly and it drains a little better. And native soil, I think, is the best thing to grow your plants in. You get better nitrogen exchange with the soil, and just better growth overall for plants.
And so we mentioned mulching on top of the soil. At what point in the year, it might not be in April, is it important to start making sure your soil is covered so it doesn't get too hot, too dry?
Yeah, usually in April is when I'm pulling mulch that I might have put over in the winter to protect the bed and keep it clear of weeds. I might be pulling that back to let the soil warm up so that I can plant in it in another month. And then after the plants have become established and they're growing vigorously and they've got some height so that the insects can't eat them all down to the ground, then I start tucking mulch back around the base of the plant. So usually, late May or June, I would start, as soon as temperatures start getting really high, I put the mulch back to keep that moisture in and keep the soil cooler for those 90-degree, 100-plus degree days. Yeah. Okay.
So half a minute left. Let's give the plug again for the Jackson County Master Gardener Association Spring Fair.
Yay. Yes. Everybody come out and get your vegetables and your native plants. lots of native plants. We've got
Natives,
for
always
sale.
the natives. Okay, that's May
Always the
2nd.
natives.
May 2nd and 3rd. That's Saturday and Sunday. It's Saturday, the hours are 9 to 4, Sunday 9 to 2. Don't be a goose like I was last year and show up at 1:45 and be surprised. So there you go. Yeah. This is Garden for Life on the Jefferson Exchange. I'm Jeffrey Bradley with Lynn Kunstman. Lynn, thanks again.
Thank you very much.